The Vikings are wrapping up OTAs phase 2 out here. I am joined by the Athletics' Chad Graff. And Chad, we don't talk too much all the time about special teams. It may not be the hot topic here at OTAs, but the punt return is a very interesting competition. What have you seen so far out here?
Well, it's a fun one. I think anytime you're talking about the returns, it's often kind of a fun competition, something fun to watch. And the kickoff return, we know the kickoff return is set. Kenny Wongwu showed last year he's already one of the best kick returners. But I think there are some questions at punt return. Like KJ Osborne, I think, is a very good, very capable punt returner. But if he's going to be the third wide receiver in a scheme that's playing a lot of three wide receiver sets, he's going to be tired. You might need somebody else. So Amir Smith-Marset is a guy that we saw return some kicks last year. If the Vikings are looking for somebody who could potentially get involved a little bit more in special teams, I think that's a guy to watch and somebody who has a lot of potential, somebody who hasn't done it yet, but there are some similarities between kick return and punt return, some differences. You got to figure out how the ball is dropping. But if the Vikings are looking for some big play excitement, I think Amir Smith-Marset could find a role there.
Are there any real possibilities we could see a rookie in that position?
For sure. I think you look at a lot of the rookie wide receivers, the rookie running back even. This is a place that because of KJ Osborne's presumably bigger role on offense, you could see a lot of different names there. So I think throughout training camp, as the fans are here watching, that is a spot that I think could be a lot of fun to watch as they're looking for some big play abilities there.
Let's switch things to the defensive side of things. A great article coming out in The Athletic about Vic Fangio and his impact on defense really across the league, and someone who's worked with him a long time, Vikings defensive coordinator Ed Donatel. What have you seen, or at least what have you heard from Ed that really kind of brings that point home that this is a league that's just a copycat? It just kind of makes its way around.
Well, it's been interesting because Vic Fangio's defense has swept the league. And so it was fun to hear from Ed Donatel of what that's been like. Ed Donatel's been with Vic Fangio for over a decade. And so while everybody's looking for a way to unlock this Vic Fangio defense, maybe the best way is to hire his sidekick for the last decade. So it's been fun to see that being implemented. It's been fun to see kind of the size up front. The Vikings are going to have Armon Watts, Harrison Phillips, Dalvin Tomlinson. Have those guys eat up a bunch of blocks and then let smaller, faster linebackers go run around, make tackles. We've seen it from a lot of different teams so far. And it's been fun to, I think, see a guy like Asamoah who's undersized but can really move, to see what a linebacker like that can do in this Ed Donatel scheme is really fun. And I think it's going to be something that's exciting to watch going forward.
As Coach Donatel said, it's really hard to tell what a pass rush will look like. But when you've got a guy like Zadarius Smith and you're already seeing him being moved in almost every position along the line so far when you're out here at OTAs, what can we expect from that pass rush?
I think that you can expect a lot of big things. Armon Watts has a bit of pass rush too up front. Dalvin Tomlinson wants to get a bigger pass rush role, is something he talked about and something that he's been working on. And yet, even though you have that, of course, we know who the stars are and we know who's going to be in the backfield most often. So I think there's a lot of different ways, too, that Ed Donatel can do it, whether it's a five-man rush with both Zadarius and Hunter, whether it's dropping somebody back in more of a disguise. There's a lot of options, and I think that brings a lot of excitement for both him and even Coach O'Connell. It's been fun to hear him talk about how he's getting more involved in the defensive side, working with Ed Donatel and saying, if I were an offense that did this, how would you counter it? So there's been a lot of communication between both of those coaches.
It's that key word, Chad, collaboration, right?
We've heard it a time or two, I think, in the last couple months.
That's right. Well, as they collaborate, we've collaborated with another interview, talk more about offense. So shockingly, we got through an entire Vikings conversation and didn't mention the offense once. So I'll take this time to just ask one question on it. Who out there most excites you being plugged into this new offense?
I think for me, it's Irv Smith Jr. Expectations were so high for him last year, of course, before the injury. But I think this system could even unlock a little bit more. If Irv Smith Jr. is able to stay healthy, to come back and play like we expected him to a year ago, he is just a mismatch. He's a nightmare for defensive coordinators to be planning for. I think he is somebody that, as long as he's healthy and gets to where the Vikings think he'll go, he could be in store for a really big year.
And he's someone who has caught former tight ends coach, now offensive coordinator Wes Phillips' eye, for sure. He spoke about that today. But thank you so much, The Athletic's Chad Graff, for joining us out here at Vikings OTAs.